Today, I want to talk about a foreigner's view to the American dream. I grew up in South America for pretty much my whole life. I'm originally from Brazil, lived in Chile as well for 2 years before I moved to the US, and wanted to talk about how people say that the American dream is dead, that America is in decadence, but I highly disagree with that. So, start off out there in South America, growing up in a place where you don't have as many luxuries as you do here in the US. Life is a lot more about survival and entrepreneurship or working at a tech company, making good money. You see a lot less of that. And someone like me who didn't necessarily have the best grades at school, you just kind of get left behind and you work a regular job. It's just, part of the system of the funding of the education. The tools you have as a regular person are a lot less than you do here. The ceiling is just lower. And it's not because people there are not ambitious. It's just, the system's rigged against it. I think you don't have as many opportunities to open a business, work at a cool career, since there aren't that many companies out there with the same exposure that we do have here in the US, having jobs. I do tech sales for a cybersecurity company, and it's a great job and out there comparing to some of my friends' jobs and how much they work, how much they get paid. It doesn't even compare, especially whenever you convert the dollar to the Brazilian reais, which is our currency. I'm just a little shocked how the US, people that live here, not everybody, but I've come across some people talk about how the American dream is dead and that the system is just not rigged to your favor, which I completely disagree. I think that you have so many opportunities to succeed here in the US. I mean, I'm kind of like an example of that. I moved here when I was 17 and I didn't really speak much English, being honest. I could understand it pretty well, but I actually came across an essay from in my old computer from 2017, and it's like super poorly formatted. Uh, I couldn't conjugate verbs properly, and today I consider myself a pretty good English speaker, and I can write pretty well. But that's also merit to me, right? I went across different forums and read about things and try to like get better at everything that I was interested in. Maybe that was finance or sales, investing in stocks, opening a side hustle, technology, stuff like that. I believe you have a lot of opportunity, but it's also up to you to use all those tools that we have here in the US. Something too that I was super grateful of the opportunity to do. I was a college athlete, and to compete at the level that I did, if you're in South America, you have to choose either to go to school or to be an athlete, which is, here in the US, you can do both. And the education system in college, it allows you to do both and supports you. You have some flexibility there with the classes and stuff. So, super cool. It was always my dream to continue swimming and be able to go to college. So being in the U.S. and doing that was, a dream come true, really. Talking a little bit more about work. I currently run a business on Turo, and we actually had a record month last month, I'm sorry, of $6,300, which I was super stoked. And I know the reality out there, and you couldn't run any type of business like that, even if you wanted to. It's just there's so many limitations with what you can do and the demand for things like that. So people out there are just trying to survive. They don't really have discretionary income. If you think that people are poor here in the U.S., just wait until you go out there to South America and see, what people live on. I used to grow up and go to swim practice, and at the light you see like a kid juggling oranges for a few pennies, just so they could go buy bread for their family. So it kind of exposed me to a lot of these real life scenarios, that kind of build who I am today, and I'm super grateful for. And being in America today, I think is the best place to be. I know the current regime of presidency and political status or whatever, people can be pretty divisive. We're in a pretty divisive society today. But I think if you focus on the right things, if you are dedicated to learning new tools and skills, getting to the right career, I think the American dream is still alive. And I think I'm a testament to it. I think, if you're an ambitious dude like myself, I would encourage you to go to YouTube, go and learn about something that you're inclined of learning, something that you're already pretty decent at. And you might take some trial and error. Like myself, I think I'm pretty good at sales, at talking with people, writing copy, running more of a service customer based business. So, it was a kind of a no-brainer to me to get into Turo, to get into a tech sales job. So, for you, it might be coding, it might be maybe accounting, maybe you're pretty good with numbers, but I encourage you to try out a few new jobs, go and do some new things so you can start figuring it out what you like. And then from there, once you have a skill that you want to, pursue, you then either get a job on it, go to college. If you're like me that went to college, you really don't have to these days, but just find the best industry that you can work on and, leverage your skills. So think about myself. I do sales. I could, very well work at a car dealership of sorts, or I could work at a technology company like I do today. So I may have the same skills to do both jobs, but I choose like a higher opportunity vehicle, let's say, to use my skills, and I'm paid very handsomely to do so. But I think more than someone working a car sales job, which absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think it could be a great start, but I think if you have those skills, just trying to find your best opportunity vehicle so you can exercise that. So if you're someone who you're American, you already live in the U.S., you've basically won the lottery, I want to say. If you're in the, you're in the best place of the world to build a business, whether that be investing through stocks and investing for your future, getting into tech, getting into sales, opening a side hustle on Turo, or maybe you're building AI automations, which is something I started doing actually, and I'm super stoked about it. And happy to share with you guys too in the next video some of the things I've learned. But if you're foreign, I don't think you should see you being outside of this country as a disadvantage. I think you have a unique background, and you should totally utilize that. You're just a hustler, man. And if you were born here in the U.S., also understand that everybody's got a different story. I think you don't have to just limit yourself as being American or whatever. I see a lot of that these days. I think everybody's unique in their own way, regardless of where you're from. And I think you just got to get out there and try some new things. I just wanted to get this off my chest. I wanted to do a video like this for a little bit now, rambling a little bit, but maybe you guys understood the message. I think the American dream is alive and well. I think you just got to get out there and put yourself in a good situation so you can utilize the systems we have here in the U.S. So hope you guys enjoyed. We're coming on here at the end of the gameplay. Leave a like, leave a comment. Stoked to you guys to hear from you guys what you guys thought about this video and some more ideas for the next ones. So thanks guys. Talk to you soon.